Welcome back. It's time for Focus Africa. Now, in a move that could redefine the political landscape of West Africa, ECOWAS has approved a groundbreaking framework aimed at transitioning military-led governments back to democratic rule. Now, this historic decision comes amid growing concerns over the rise of military regimes across the region, particularly in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. With these transitions being both a political and security imperative, ECOWAS has now taken a firm stance to ensure that these states follow a clear path towards democracy while addressing the underlying social political issues that led to the military takeovers. The approved roadmap is being hailed as a decisive moment for the bloc, which has faced criticism over its response to military coups. By laying out timelines, benchmarks, and the potential consequences of non-compliance, ECOWAS is sending a strong message that the era of unchecked military dominance in governance must come to an end. However, the complexities of implementing this plan in states marred by instability, terrorism, and economic challenges raise questions about its feasibility.
So to talk about this today, check out the critical development. We are joined by Fahiraman Koné, the Sahel Project Manager at the Institute for Security Studies. You're welcome, Fahiraman. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. Sorry, my English is not as perfect as you think, but we will try.
Oh,
what do you mean?
Great. It's great.
I couldn't tell. What are you talking about?
So let's talk about the significance.
Let's go, we're going to see.
Let's talk about the significance of this now. How significant is this ECOWAS decision, and what does it signal about the bloc and their approach to the military states?
Yes, I think the ECOWAS is sending two messages. The first is that, yes, the region can face political issues, political difficulties, but it is important to keep the principle of governance in terms of democratic governance, and that the military coup are not welcomed. But at the same time, the decision was opening, I can say, a kind of an alternative, saying that they are now regarding 6 months of alternative to discuss about if possible those countries can come back. But for me, the main significant meanings of that is that ECOWAS stand on its democratic points, even though the institution recognized that there is the need to reform. I think the decision is very important because next year, I can say in January already, the body institution will celebrate its 50 years, and celebrating this 50th anniversary without 3 of its major member states, it's something very important. It's impacting its capacity, and also meaning that 50 years after, the ideal of integration has not been realized as it was a dream for the founders.
Mr. Koné, I have to ask about, just the ECOWAS and how they have laid a clear path for this military states to redirect themselves back to a democratic state. Do you think that they would adhere to the ECOWAS's roadmap?
Sorry, come again?
I'm talking, yes. So, the ECOWAS have, laid out a clear path for democratic transitions for all of these military states, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. Do you see these military states adhering to ECOWAS's rule? Would they follow through on this roadmap, or would they just stay completely different?
No, they are clearly mentioned that they don't want to come back again. And I think I'm not sure that there is much for ECOWAS to do with what is happening. But it's still, there is also, we are in a political arena, and all the things can happen before the end of the 6 months. But they are clearly mentioned that they don't want to come back again. And when we see the trends in those countries, there is no clear signs that they will come back.
Okay, so noting that you have just said that they don't seem like they want to come back, how will this affect relationship between them and the rest of the ECOWAS countries? How will this especially affect security?
Yeah, those countries of Sahel region are very important for the whole regional stability. Sahel is, when you see Sahel in the world, is a geostrategic location which is very important between Europe and also sub-African countries. And it's also the access, I can say, a corridor when you are going through the east parts of the countries, of the continent. Is also a corridor which is very in terms of security, geostrategic security. It's at the middle of struggle of, I can say, the the big powers. But at the same time, since 10 years, we have seen that the region is subject to jihadist insurrection. So this point is very important for all the region, and if those three countries are expressed for the Sahel, it's going to be it can impact also the security littoral countries. So it's very important because if the ECOWAS cannot, I can say, at least have a kind of dialogue with those countries, even if they are out, how to manage these security situations, also this economic situation, it can impact all the region.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about ECOWAS for a second, right? We sat back and we saw how, Guinea played out and how Mali played out and how Burkina Faso played out. And many critics have said that the ECOWAS itself is slow to react and it's very slow to act as well. What do you make of this criticism in this case of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea? Were they slow in acting or stepping in?
Yeah, it is true that the diagnosis is a good one. Everybody has identified that there was a kind of, I can say, slow way of acting, but it's the question of anticipating those crises. The mechanism for ECOWAS to anticipate those crises are still there, but the implementation of those rules are not all the time well done. So the main problem is the problem of reacting. But at the same time, we can blame ECOWAS, but also we can blame also the state themselves, because ECOWAS, the addition of many countries, are not itself like an independent body. It depends also of the countries. Those countries have never do little to comply the rules that have been put in place by ECOWAS. And a third point is that when there was security crisis in those Sahelian countries, even ECOWAS has done its best to mobilize all the member states for military intervention. No member state have put, I can say, the hand in the pocket to put money on the table for those security intervention. So it's not only we should not only blame ECOWAS itself in its way of operating, but also the member states in their political will to really make this regional body as an instrument for integration, development, and economic development for the region.
Fahiraman, there is still a query out for ECOWAS, and that query regarding what we are still talking about here, their reaction or their actions. The query is that ECOWAS sits back and waits for things to get out of hand. In these cases, military rule has ensued since perhaps maybe the corruption in the country got a bit too much, or the economy got too bad, or insecurity, terrorism, for instance. Is it not fair to ask that ECOWAS perhaps have a means of interfering before it gets to such a case as a military coup?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it is true that the anticipatory, I don't know if it's a word in English, but
that's a good word.
Yes, having this anticipative approach is the best. And we know that the roots of those recurrent instability coup are linked to the socio-economic governance failures. that's the civilian elites, but also both the military, by the way. Those three countries are not at the first coup. Burkina Faso, we can say, is 98th coup, and Mali the 5, and the Niger almost the 6. Militaries are always been also governing in these countries. They have failed to tackle the deep socio-economic roots that are at the beginning of those instabilities. And ECOWAS has also not anticipated in terms of creating mechanisms that put pressure on civilian elites to deal with corruption, with, I can say, basic social needs. So I think we must also blame, yes, the ECOWAS on its very slow way of reacting, of inefficiencies, of putting pressure on civilian regime, not to, for example, to manipulate constitution, but to deal with socio-economic challenges. But at the same time, the government themselves, the military, who are also a part of this governance since long time in those countries, have also their responsibilities in what is happening there.
Right. I mean, let me ask you, right? You are the Sahel Project Manager for Institute of, just to get it correctly here, the Institute of Security Studies, ISS. And so I have to talk about the role of China and Russia and its influence on the Sahel as well, and how this will play for a possible democratic transition that ECOWAS is proposing, and just the military state that we see in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. Your take?
Yes, the current multipolarity of the world is one of the reasons for the awakening of ECOWAS mechanism to successfully, I can say, deal with the military transition. Now the military regime, they have many alternatives of, not respecting the rules that have been imposed by the regional body, and they have, so I can say, support by also raising global power that are contesting the actual order of the world. So it's something which is, I can say, a reality that we should deal with. And I think it's not, for me, a constraint, it's rather an opportunity for ECOWAS to take advantage of this multipolarity and also fix his way of dealing with those political challenges. There is, I can say, nothing is actually against the way that ECOWAS go and discuss with Russia, with China, about how to deal in the process of mediation, for example, with those three countries. ECOWAS could also talk with Russia, with Putin, to see how we can deal with those challenges security.